You're listening to Mike Adams and Chris Savory, the record collectors from the BBC, between now and 9 tonight.
And our guest tonight on the programme is Rick Wakeman. Welcome to the Record Collectors, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
In the middle of a national tour.
That's right, yeah.
Now, in record collecting terms, of course, a lot of your associations with other bands, and particularly your connection with Yes, of course, is very collectible. And we have people who are after signed albums, early singles, early albums, and so on.
Right.
Can you perhaps tell us, for our listener, how you got into music and start from the very beginning? A thumbnail sketch of how you got into the pop business.
I got into the pop business when I was still at college, at Royal College of Music, really. I've been playing in various bands, in pubs, etc. And I drifted into sessions with the likes of, Tony Visconti and Gus Dudgeon producing, the likes of Tyrannosaurus Rex T-Rex, Jimmy Thomas, Joe Cocker, and of course David Bowie.
What was your first one then?
My first single probably was with as a session player, or was actually as part of the band.
Well, let's start with the sessions. I think that's interesting.
My first sessions, first ones. Well, I did just over 2,000 singles with people. Probably the most well-known ones. I did David Bowie's Space Oddity. That was in 1969. I think about July '69.
Who was on that session? Just to put the record.
There was Herbie Flowers was on bass. I can't remember who was on guitar. I think it was Chris Spedding. Herbie Flowers was definitely on bass. Terry Cox was on drums. And you're talking about collectible records. If you can get an original Philips version of that on the Philips label, that was the very first stereo single that was produced.
And of course it came in two different versions. It came actually with the press out centre, the standard centre, and actually came out with a totally different sprocket centre. And they're now worth between £8 and £15 a copy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's of course it was an historical single because it was a stereo single.
That's right. I can remember the argument when David was arguing with Philips that he was determined that it was going to go out as stereo. And they said, why the hell there's no stereo jukeboxes and nobody ever plays their singles in stereo.
Let's play that record now just for old time's sake.
All right.
And that was Space Oddity, David Bowie, with Rick Wakeman as well. Can we move on from there in those sessions? Your first recordings with your own band.
Yeah, on single-wise, the first single really came under the name, I think it was Catherine, which was from the Six Wives album, which was an edited version. That was on A&M Records. I've had quite a few singles released around different countries, probably about 15. Of which I probably own about 3.
It's always the way, isn't it? That the artist never
collects them. I know, and there's a lot are deleted now, and I know of some that have changed hands for as much as £25 for people who want to have them, because some are limited editions.
Let's move on a little bit further, and the first big band that you were with
was Yes.
Yes.
We had the only hit single we had in England really was I Knew and I was released as a single, but we had Wondrous Stories, which was a hit in 1977. I think that got to number 7. Roundabout in America, which is very collectible, that got to number 3.
If I bring out some titles for you, Time and a Word. Were you on and You and I?
I was on You and I, yeah.
That's very collectible, and Going for the One.
Yeah, I was on that.
Don't Kill the Whale.
I was on that.
That was years ahead of its time, wasn't it?
That was good, that, yeah. Yeah, I still am heavily into the conservation thing.
Can we move on to the albums? Of course, the famous Yes album, which was a multi-million selling album. Were you on that album or not?
Well, we've had a few multi-million. Fragile was a multi-million selling, so it was Close to the Edge, and Yes songs.
And the Box of Three. Was it?
Yeah, that was Yes songs. That's right.
Yes songs. Yeah. And then of course you went from on to Acto, and you changed labels, didn't you?
I wasn't. Yeah, when they changed labels, I wasn't with the band. I'd left them. I left at the end of 1979, and they moved to Atco. That's right.
What was your favourite Yes track?
Heart of the Sunrise off of Fragile.
And then was able to clarify just how many times Rick had actually been with the band Yes. The breakup of Yes and your departure from Yes.
Right.
The true story.
I just didn't like. well, I left twice. First of all, when we finished Topographic Oceans, we were touring with that, and it wasn't really my cup of tea, so I left it to work on my own solo stuff. And then the second time, which was December 1979, because I felt that the band, as it stood, had reached as far as it could go, you know, in that format and that lineup, and so John and I left at the same time.
Well, that's cleared up those questions, Rick. I think we should play something off a recently released album of yours, which was the Rick Wakeman Country Airs. And just say good luck on behalf of the record collectors and all your fans in the Midland area, and thank you very much for the music.